Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. I'm your host. Your other host is coming shortly. Michelle, Leah is literally just in the other room. I don't know what she's doing, wandering around, chasing dogs, whatever. Today is Sunday. Here she is. Lovely Leah. Oh, I know exactly what you were doing. You were getting a flower. That's a pretty flower. That's one of our flowers. This is fake. That's real. Okay, so today is Sunday, July 29th, 2018. It is our European and UK news show that you guys put on your calendar to come to every Sunday at 1 o'clock-ish. It's ish. It's not. What I think we do is allow for time for people to arrive. Like, let's say they were running late. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss Leah and Michelle. And then, so we run a little behind so that you guys can make it. I think that's very courteous of us. I do have my little brooch on from our mail call.
Unfortunately, is lower than the screen.
On Friday. If you guys missed that, go back and watch it. We're going to finish the mail call later today with what Horatio sent. But I think we're going to start off with what is happening. The name Steve Bannon. EU.
So I actually really appreciate Steve Bannon.
Me too.
He went off the radar for a little bit. He got forced out or left Donald Trump. Cabinet, he wasn't clash. His personality doesn't jive well with everyday,
right?
Shall we say, compromises.
Sure.
He's not necessarily the compromising kind of guy. He's the kind of guy who goes in and bulldozes everything. But then he is principled, right? He was the one who fought. The really big thing was the Syria strikes.
Right.
He really got into it with the generals over striking Syria.
And he should have. And what I appreciate about Steve Bannon is regardless of whether you agree with him, he has his morals and he has his standards and he is not going to compromise even if he is in a governmental position. He's not going to compromise those beliefs. To be a politician in today's day and age, you have to be able to give up something that might be a core value of yours just to stay in that position. And I don't think that's right.
No, and that's actually true. Breitbart was going in a whole nother direction under Steve Bannon. And I could say that there's probably more peace at the White House now that Bannon's gone.
Probably.
And maybe Trump's able to get some things done. It's a fork in the road, and Bannon left. Raheem, though, he also left. He was leading Breitbart London, which packed a powerful punch, but still pretty much packs a good punch. Breitbart London. Breitbart itself is working its way back to... They are like the kid who they didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But then they were told they did something wrong. And so their articles became bland, tastes like rice and beans. So they don't flesh things out. They are trying to turn themselves into something that they don't need to be, which is just the news.
Yeah,
or just the facts. We're not going to post
opinion pieces
and things like that. So behind the scenes, I've been seeing Bannon and Raheem kind of traveling around Europe. And what he has done, Bannon has seen these populist movements that were started like, in Brexit in the UK.
Well, we're kind of seeing it in Italy in a big way.
And he started seeing them pop up because of migration and things like that all over Europe. And he knows that Europe's filled with the globalists and things like that. So he is seeing this as an opportunity to go deeper. Like, first of all, the people are only seeing the cancer of the EU through migration. But the cancer has been there, controlling people's lives since its inception.
Can I just throw something out there? And I know this is your show. Yeah. It's our show, but I mean like what you have going. And I know Leah's going to be like, I can't believe you're saying this. Okay, so I listen to the audio Bible a lot when I'm getting ready, I take it with me on pet visits, whatever. So it's always random what comes up. I never know because like I'll sleep with it and then I wake up, in like 10 books later. So I'm fixing my hair today and I've got Revelation 18 playing. And I do not believe we're in the last days. This is not a time do not go into that in the chat right now. Okay. That's not my point. Okay. But I just want you to know where I stand. I don't believe that we are in the last days. I believe that Revelation has played out over and over again since I believe it's a very relevant book for every generation of Christians. And a lot of people have thought that the United States is the whore of Babylon, right? But as I'm listening to Revelation 18, for our generation, I believe that the whore of Babylon is the EU. Like, in our generation, not this is the last days, they are the whore of Babylon, but as that kind of represents and it plays out, because it literally has played out every 100, 200 years since it was written. It has literally almost played out to the T. And in our generation, I believe that we are at that kind of point. And I think that because I'm listening to it and it's talking about all of these heads getting together and they think that they're kings, but they're actually not kings, and they have all this power and they give it to one woman and all this stuff. And I'm kind of going, that sounds an awful lot like the EU. So I do believe, even though I don't think we're in the last days, I think we're in the end of kind of our generation's playing out of Revelation. And I think that the whore of Babylon is the EU. So just wanted to throw that little itching thing out there and then watch the chat go crazy, even though I told you not to do it.
All right. So what Steve Bannon has done is he is setting up shop in Brussels. And he's created a non-government organization to rival George Soros.
I love it so
and
much.
It's like one of those things, I have goosebumps now, where a lot of these populist people have been saying for a while, why don't we just use their weapons against them?
Right.
Which is exactly what we're doing through YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, because y'all know I want to be out farming, right? But how am I supposed to farm when I have the deep state coming in, taking my land, taking taxes? Right. So we get online and we discuss these things and we join forces, right? And it does remind me, we did watch Ready One Player last night. It's kind of a boring movie when it gets going, but at that very end of it, you'll see that for me, they didn't mean it this way. But for me, it's a representative of kind of what's happening. And like, we have this online world. We get in the online world. Yeah. We work together to take down
go ahead and do a spoiler state. Because the movie's not worth hinged on.
You can tell where it's going from the very
beginning. You can.
Okay, but the essence of the whole movie is live in reality.
Well, yeah, but I think
and
the
make connections with real people
that you wanted to get to is at the end of the movie, and I'm totally going to give it away because it's really cool. There were these people that were trying to control the Oasis, which is the online whatever, where people go in and live in this virtual reality. They were trying to control it, and at the end, it was put back in the hands of the people, and they were not allowed in anymore.
Right.
And so afterwards, I said, well, maybe we watched that whole movie just for that. And we can thank Sooks, by the way. You guys see him as a moderator. He lets us have his voodoo. So that was there. We were like, hey, let's just play that. We multitask a lot. So that that was playing in the background yesterday. So
Steve Bannon is leading this populist revolt. He's setting up shop in Brussels. He's only got 10 people he's hiring on right now. Hopes to be at 25. There's major elections happening next May.
Hang on. You just said he's got 10 people hired, right? Where is he getting funding for this?
That is what the article does not say. That is what I thought myself. I don't know.
It has to be coming from somewhere.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. It doesn't say.
So great.
Doesn't say. But he's setting up shop. He hopes to be up to 25 people. Now, what he did when Trump came in town, is he went to a 5-star hotel with Raheem and set up shop and received all these European leaders to discuss what they're going to do to take over the EU.
You stop it.
I know. Isn't this awesome?
Oh, my gosh.
There's a whole program on this. Are you ready?
Oh, my. It's a program?
No.
We're
doing a whole program.
We are doing a whole program.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, so we're discussing all the negative things. But there's actually people out there who are literally going to change this deal. And it's going to happen because the wave is going.
Yeah.
Like, Le Pen was really close to being elected.
She was. And Geert Wilders.
And Macron is not popular right now.
No.
His bodyguard dressed up as a police officer
when you
and fought some guy and has been arrested, and people think he's his gay lover. It's kind of funny.
Oh my.
I know.
That's nice.
And Macron literally had to come out and say, my ex-bodyguard is not my gay lover.
No, he didn't really say that.
He did say that.
Oh my gosh.
He didn't say I'm not gay. He just said he's not my gay lover. Literally. You think he's with that old chick? No, it's not happening.
And he is very effeminate.
Oh, yes. All right, so, and just how does the former White House chief strategist and Goldman Sachs alum plan to take over the EU? Bring it down, really. Bannon will set up a Brussels-based nonprofit NGO called The Movement, which will go head-to-head with George Soros with the goal of uniting like-minded European parties and various conservative think tanks along with other support structures. So what you have in Europe is you have like 1/3 are on that George Soros list that can be bought, right?
So you've got 2/3 that are on the open market.
Well, that's not where I was going, but yeah. What I'm saying is that Guy Verhofstadt tweeted out Bannon and all these Euro files. They really want George Soros's money, and they want his non-government organizations. He's got like hundreds of them. Bannon's setting up one, and they're scared,
right?
Because you really have to do a lot more to brainwash people into being into a socialist communist mindset than you do to set them free.
Although, and again, another rabbit trail. I keep reading these comments from people, and if you're one of them watching us, I get these comments, and mostly it's on Facebook, right? But it's from our Bernieites, and they're like, you girls just don't get socialism. You have your heads in the sand, and you don't understand what it is. And I'm going, but I think I do. I think I do. I really think that I understand socialism, and they're trying to say that this democratic socialistic movement
is what we all vote on how much money to take from other people.
Right.
And we all agree to put in
we agree that we all pay taxes and then how much people get out. And I'm like, you understand? You're thinking that we're thinking that socialism is communism. Actually, it's just a cross between the two. It's what it is. And that's what socialism is. That's what I was taught even in public school years ago, that socialism was pretty much a middle of the road between capitalism and democracy and communism. And I have to tell you, anything on the other side of
the Republic of the United States
is not good.
Right.
Socialism is not good. And so I do get it. I understand what you're saying.
What democratic socialists want is they want large businesses because they create more wealth so they can distribute more wealth.
And they're always telling me in the comments, they're like, you think that socialism is just people that we just want free stuff. We haven't had Patriot Gallery come in a little while. Let's have Patriot Gallery's opinion. You want your sock puppet?
Okay, well, you do it for me.
Okay.
Basically,
from Tracy,
we all live under socialism right now. Social Security is socialism. Public school is socialism. But try to do that with real money like gold and silver.
It's gonna happen, baby.
You see, real money is gold and silver. No one can just print up money and say, look, we've got all this money.
Right.
Why budget? Why save if you could just print? Why go to work? If you could just print up as much as you want and you never have to work, that's what politicians do. They never have to work. They just print what they want. Gold and silver is real money. And you cannot have socialism, communism, even capitalism the way we have it today if you have to use real money. And real money makes life fair for everybody. Everybody has to work for what they have. When you just print money up, there's half of people do not work, the other half are slaves. And we don't believe in slavery. If you're a communist and socialist, you don't believe in slavery. Well, then you have to use gold and silver. And that limits everybody, but it makes everybody equal.
Preach.
Thank you, Patriot Gallery.
She's absolutely right about that. Okay, so here we go.
Working doing dishes.
She's working doing dishes.
Slave.
She is the slave.
I don't have a slave to do my dishes.
She doesn't have a slave to do her dishes, she says.
So the nonprofit will be a central source of polling, advice on messaging, data targeting, and think tank research for a ragtag band of right-wingers who are surging all over Europe, in many cases without professional political structures or significant budgets. So you've got, on the one hand, the left and the liberals who have huge budgets to get their message out there.
Right.
And the conservatives, the fact that, if this had been created and been strong in France and they had been able to rebrand their message, Le Pen would be prime minister right now, or president, whatever they have there. She just would. And Guy
Verhofstadt?
No. Wilders.
Oh, Geert Wilders.
Geert Wilders would be stronger in the Netherlands too. Over the past year, Bannon has held talks with right-wing groups across the continent, from Nigel Farage and members of Marine Le Pen's National Front, recently named the Rassemblement National in the West, to Hungary's Viktor Orban and Polish populists in the East. In other words, Everyone who doesn't like largely unchecked human trafficking of migrants into Europe via Soros-funded NGOs, which operate throughout the Mediterranean. He's meeting with all these people.
I love it.
Bannon is looking to establish a populist stronghold within the European Parliament. Get this. So what he's trying to do is help get people elected into the European Parliament, which will change the outlook of the European Parliament. Do you see where we're going with this?
Yes.
Which could gain as many as a third of the lawmakers following May's elections in Europe. As the Beast points out, this is the Daily Beast, by the way, a united populist bloc of that size would have the ability to seriously disrupt parliamentary proceedings, potentially granting Bannon huge power within the populist movement. That is actually not what's going to happen. These people are going to start to govern themselves, not Bannon. Right? Because they have their own message, and he's just trying to help them get their message out there.
Right.
You know it's not Bannon because he's not French, he's not Italian, he's not Polish. These movements are coming up grassroots right out, and he's just going to lead them and say, this is what you want to happen, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to help steer you, and I'm going to help you get a structure. So what you want to happen, that's what true government is.
Exactly.
What do you want to happen? Let's make it happen.
Right.
And the deep state and the EU are squashing the people's desires. They are your daddy. They are your mommy. They're like Mommy Merkel. We know better than you. And these populist movements are saying, no, wait a minute. I know what's best for my family, and the tip of this, the iceberg has been the migration.
Right.
So that's what people can see. That's what everyday people who wake up and they go outside and they see, encampments around and feces and terrorist attacks and all these things happening. That's what they see.
Rapes.
But the whole control has been there. But this is the tip. Right. This is where they say, I have suffered under the slavery of the EU long enough. This I won't take.
Exactly.
Okay, I will suffer. I will have to work harder. I'll go without vacations. I will, not be able to put my kids in wherever I want to put public or private schools. I will go without things.
Right.
But when you threaten my life and my livelihood, that is when we draw the line in the sand.
And I think you really hit the nail on the head as far as what Bannon is doing here. He's like a general contractor. He's taking the vision of somebody that wants to build a house. What house do you want built? Right. All right, I'm going to get all of the pieces together to make sure that it happens the way that you want it to happen. That, and the difference between Bannon and Soros is literally, it's my house, I'm going to build it the way I want, and you are my slaves.
Right.
Okay, that's what he's doing. And Bannon is pretty much just saying, thank you. Somebody laughs at my jokes. Leah does the Soros. I got to do it this time. But seriously, that's what he's doing. He's giving structure to what they want. And there are going to be some compromises that are going to have to be made within this new kind of block, as it were. And Bannon is going to...
correct that George Soros' father figure is Hitler. He's just doing things Hitler's way.
Bannon is going to have to relay those to everyone. All right, so in order for us to be strong, Italy, you're going to have to give up this. France, you're going to have to give up this, whatever, so that they can come together with a unified front.
If there's comments, you should go and read some, because it's kind of a cool
Stuart
topic.
the Brit says, Bannon totally understands how to play the media at their own game. Well said.
Absolutely. When Bannon met with Marine Le Pen and she invited him to speak at the Lille at the National Front, he said to Le Pen, what do you want me to talk about? And she said, just tell people that we're not alone. While the movement is in its infancy, the wheels are already in motion to hire a full-time staff of at least 10 for Bannon's Brussels, Belgium headquarters in coming months, including a polling expert, a communications person, an office manager, and a researcher. If all goes as planned, in 2019 they'll have about 25 people. In order to carry out this plan, Bannon will spend at least half his time in Europe, mostly in the field, once U.S. midterm elections are over in November. Okay, he's like, America first, then I'll help y'all. The movement will also serve as a link between the pro-Trump Freedom Caucus in the U.S. and Europe's populist movement. So that is what we're doing right now on our Sunday show. That is what we're doing. And
maybe
I'm so
Bannon would like to pull
this.
us in and get some advice.
Oh, maybe Bannon wants to come on our show.
Maybe he wants to come on our show.
Bannon and Raheem Kassim, a former Farage staffer and Breitbart editor, set up shop in a 5-star Mayfair hotel a week while Donald Trump was visiting Europe. Between TV appearances as Trump surrogates, they hosted a raft of Europe's leading right-wingers at the hotel. It was so successful that we're going to start staffing up, said Bannon. Everybody agrees that next May is hugely important, and this is the real first continent-wide face-off between populism and the Party of Davos. This will be an enormously important moment for Europe, and I have goosebumps all over me. Seriously, guys, what he's doing right here is what we do on Sundays at 1, what we do throughout the week. That's why I can get behind this. That's why I know.
Listen, I'm not going to toot
this is what we're doing.
I'm not going to toot my own horn, but yeah, I am going to toot my own horn. We're one of the only shows, I think, that really goes hard at uniting Europe, the UK, and the United States. We don't just cover American news. We don't just cover European news. We bring it all together and say, listen, this is how we're going to take down the George Soroses of this world.
Western Christian values.
Yeah.
We are united under one banner. And you know what? We're bringing in Russia. You want to know why? Because they are uniting under Christian values too.
True.
And I understand that my Polish friends, they have some issues and communism took over their country. But recognize that Russia is split 50-50 as well as the United States.
Right.
Okay? That Russia is uniting right now under the banner of Christianity. It may be Russian Orthodox. I don't care, because you have Christians uniting under Catholicism in Italy, and I can back and support them. Y'all, when you say the name of Jesus, I am on your side. You are on my side. Doesn't mean I subscribe to everything that Catholics subscribe to. I certainly don't subscribe to everything the Russian Orthodox Church subscribe to, but we're all looking to Jesus.
Right.
Western Christian values. Under that umbrella, right? Then we can have discussions over all the little things on how to take care of the poor, how to take care of the weak, how do we feed. This is what Christians are supposed to do, and socialists have literally hijacked it, right? We were just in the hospital yesterday. The whole line on the wall is called Bethesda. It was started by Christians because Christians help people. But then we've become complacent because, well, the government now takes care of people, and the government. But when you're one-on-one and your own, listen, you're gonna be spending just as much money helping the poor. Actually, you'll be spending less money if you do it yourself, because if you're in front of your charity work, which is what all these welfare programs are, is charity, which is supposed to be what Christians do. If you're in charge of it, you're going to make sure that dollar is well spent.
Yeah.
That the efforts actually accomplish something.
Correct.
I'm sorry, rabbit trail. And Bannon is going to use German Chancellor Angela Merkel as the perfect foil to help accelerate that dynamic in Europe, writes the Beast. After President Trump called Merkel out at the NATO summit earlier this month, Bannon hopped on the bandwagon, saying that this is the lie of Angela Merkel. She's a complete and total phony. The elites say Trump is disruptive, but she's sold out to control to Russia for cheaper energy prices. He describes Merkel and Emmanuel Macron, the French president, as vulnerable figureheads of establishment Europe. Nobody likes Macron, like nobody.
Yeah.
With Britain voting to quit the EU, Merkel and Macron's vision of a united continent will be put to the test at next year's elections. Bannon is convinced that the coming years will see a drastic break from the decades of European integration. Right-wing populist nationalism is what will happen. That's what will govern. You're going to have individual nation states with their own identities and their own borders. In June, Bannon met with Italy's new interior minister, and Italy is on fire. They are on fire. I got like 5 articles here with Italy. I don't even speak Italian, but I love these men.
They are like Italiano.
Once they got the government, and once they finally got it put together, they actually have populist socialists and populist libertarians together, and they're fighting behind the scenes, right? Because they have total different visions, but their one vision is a united Italy standing up to the EU and stopping this migration.
And why
push.
why are they able to come together? Because they realize that if they do not fight this together, there won't be an Italy to argue over the little bits about.
So what the voice that they're putting forward is one and united right now in Italy, which is pretty powerful.
Well, I say to George Soros, what did he learn from Hitler? You kill off the Jews, you kill off the Christians, you take their stuff, and you become a billionaire. Yeah. So when you're dealing with the EU, you're dealing with businessmen. What they want to do is they want to kill people off. Or you look at the North and the South, our war was about men who wanted to make other people men slaves. Mm-hmm. And so they want all these Muslims in there because Muslims' religion allows for slavery.
It does.
So they want all these people to come. They're promising all the stuff with their fake money. They're not going to pay them in gold and silver. Mm-mm. They're going to pay them with these fake dollars they just print up. So this is all about a religion, cannot be named, that believes in slavery, making women slaves, children slaves, pedophilia, sex trading, what's that, harems, making harems. These rich people love the Muslim religion because you can have kings, you can have queens, you can have lords, you can have people who may enslave other people. And Jesus Christ comes and says, no, you have one God, you have one king, and that is Jesus Christ. And he leads you to freedom. And so go ahead with the Catholic Church, go ahead with the Orthodox Church. Go ahead wherever Jesus leads. He leads you to the truth, and the truth sets you free. You're not a slave to any man. That means you demand gold and silver be paid. Because these people don't have any money. Are they paying you gold and silver? No. They're poor people who are just criminals, gangsters, leading you astray. But through God, you'll know, I got to pay people gold and silver. I have to earn gold and silver. I can't earn euros. I can't earn even the pound. If it's not a real silver dollar pound from Europe, it's not real. It's got to be silver and gold. And everything else is slavery.
Thank you, Patriot Gallery.
It's killing people and taking their stuff like George Soros does.
Right. Exactly. In June, Bannon met with Italy's new Interior Minister, Matteo Salvini, and the American Cardinal Raymond Burke, both of whom are staunchly opposed to the Pope's open border policies. The three met in Rome while Bannon... This is going to make a really good movie.
Yeah!
While Bannon was visiting to celebrate... Could you imagine, this movie, playing out, Bannon meeting with Salvini and Cardinal... In Rome. And discussing how the Pope's got these open borders, right? The three met in Rome while Bannon was visiting to celebrate Italy's new populist coalition government run by Salvini, the five-star movement leader Luigi Di Maio, and the Prime Minister, I can't say his name, but Conte. During his visit, Bannon took a side trip to the 800-year-old Truceliti Monastery under development by conservative UK Catholic Benjamin Harnwell, who runs a conservative Catholic organization, the Dignitas Humanae Institute, founded to help Christian politicians defend their faith in the public square. The monastery will hold events with speakers like Bannon and Burke and conservative Christian leaders. Hornwell and his organization are an important connection between Bannon and Burke. Hornwell is the one who first introduced the two, according to the New York Times article that is displayed on Hornwell's website. Bannon spoke at one of Cardinal Burke, meanwhile, is one of the Pope's harshest critics, openly challenging Francis's ability to lead the church while campaigning for limitations on papal powers, which is hilarious to me. Burke has openly called Islam a threat and is an open supporter of President Trump. Francis, pushing back against the mounting Catholic coalition against his open border policies, has been particularly vocal of late on the issue of migrants, both in regards to Italy's closed ports and the U.S.-Mexico border controversy over migrant children being separated from their families, whatever. I would like to point out that the issue of migration is not simply one of numbers, but of persons, each with his or her own history, he goes on to say. Liberals in Europe, meanwhile, are fuming over Bannon. The EU Parliament center-left politician Udo Bullman branding Bannon's plan as an attack on freedom of democracy in Europe and vowing a response to Bannon's planned NGO, which ironically would be an attack on the freedoms of the populists in Europe who wish to coordinate the efforts. Liberal Belgian politician Guy Verhofstadt, whatever, leader of the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats in Europe, he wants to ban Bannon completely from Europe in order to stop his hate speech. Steve Bannon's far-right vision and attempt to import Trump's hateful politics to our continent will be rejected by decent Europeans. We know what a nightmare of nationalism can do to our countries in the past. Or perhaps Bannon's European partners are interested in their countries having their own Wikipedia entries for grenade attacks and other recent phenomena.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need a Wikipedia page, Sweden, for how many grenade attacks you have. Mm-hmm. And, you got Sweden, right? I have an article. I don't think I have it up. But Sweden is labeled far right for far-right groups are using child marriages to push forward their agenda. They're going against child marriages. What's happening is some of these immigrants are marrying young Swedish girls or marrying young children and granting them asylum. And the far right in Sweden, there's nobody right wing in Sweden. Like, they're all socialists. They're all on the left.
So what they're trying to say is, I can't believe that they would utilize child marriages as their bargaining chip or something that they're calling out as
fear-mongering.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just very confused. Does anybody buy that?
No, and Sweden,
like, that should be like, yay, far right. Even if they are far right, or if they're not, it doesn't matter. They're doing the right thing. You should call out child marriages at every time that you see one.
So while we're in Sweden, because
Before you move on,
okay,
I want to get to one of the comments here. Stuart the Brit asked the question, Michelle, do you think that Trump sent Bannon over there to the EU to help us? And actually, that was one comment in my mind that kept running over. When Bannon left the White House, we all, at least here on Resistance Chicks, we all said, I think that Trump has sent him on a mission of some sort. We didn't think that it was this big blow up like the MSM was trying to make us believe, this big split. Oh, and even earlier you were like, well, it's hard for Bannon to be there. I think that possibly Bannon could have stuck it out, but I think that Trump was probably like, you know what, this might not be working out, and he is a businessman. If he has a tool that is perfect for a job and he really likes that tool, but it's not fitting for the application, he's going to put it somewhere else where it will fit. And so I believe 100% that Bannon was sent to Europe to do this by Trump.
Trump likes anybody who supports him.
Yeah.
Even if he got in an argument with Bannon, even if he said, F you, Bannon, get that out of White House, right? If Bannon is supporting Trump,
right,
he is happy at he's not a grudge guy.
No.
You know what I mean?
He's not.
Like, he's not a grudge guy. He will be like, okay, whatever. That's how he's like, seriously not like normal like the rest of us. The rest of us, we hold on to things. We hold on to emotions. This person hurt my feelings, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't have that. Then that's what makes him such a great president.
I think perhaps Bannon might have presented this idea to Trump in passing in their conversations. What if we were to have something going on, a populist movement? What if I could start meeting with people? Like I said at the beginning when Leah said that he's got 10 employees, and I said, who's funding this? We don't know. We'll just leave that there.
All right. So I'm going to go through, now that we have that as our foundation, right? Now I want to go through Europe, and we're going to go to what's going on in the different countries individually. What you have in Sweden right now is almost a total population. I want to show you this graph. It's really short, but to show you how migration. See, you can see that it's not normal, right? And so what we're coming up against is not that we don't want all different kinds of people in Sweden, or we don't want, racial, homogeny with other races in other countries. You guys, that's not it. So when you see this, that's not the thing, right? It's the fact that they're trying to, the New World Order is literally trying to replace a population,
right,
and replace the Christian values of these people. They're not bringing them in like refugees who come in, like people who came into the United States as refugees. When I see like Brigitte Gabriel, she's Lebanese, right? She's American. I love that woman, right? But these people aren't coming in to be Swedish people.
Yeah.
They have these no-go zones. They have Sharia law. This is not normal. That's what it is. And it just so happens that they have a different color. Even if they were white, it would be we're talking about the mentality of the people, the spirituality of the people, the worth ethic of the people. Do they want to be what Sweden has become? Do they want to be part of Sweden?
Yeah.
Do they want to be part of Germany?
Right.
We actually, when I was at school, I had a very good black friend who was German. She thought in German. She spoke incredibly good English, and she was German.
Right.
She was German through and through. I'm just trying to say that, like, there's in the UK, because of the different colonies and things like that, you have a lot of people from India, especially the Indians very much love to be British. You know what I mean? They're very good British people.
Yeah.
They've really adopted what
British
it means
culture
to be British. And so it's not about the color of the skin.
And I still actually get the British vibe from them. Like,
absolutely.
Like when I don't ever really talk to them, but like when I hear them speak, I get that.
Raheem Kassim.
Exactly. He exemplifies what it means to be British.
He's Middle Eastern, but that dude is British through and through.
Right. And I love him.
When I hear him, like, I get goosebumps to think about it. So, like, here's the thing. It's not about the color. So you have to see past the color. No one will ever accuse us of being white supremacists. It makes me sick to my stomach. I'm going to spit it out my mouth. I hate that term. It's not about the color of your skin. It's about when you go to Sweden, what are you experiencing, right? I'm Swedish. Okay? I'm not... my grandfather came over from Sweden on a boat. When I think of Sweden, I think of, girls with braids and Swedish meatballs and Swedish pancakes and
Vikings and
fjord lately. And there's just a culture around that. And if you go and you move and you become part of a country, then you need to embrace that culture, right? You don't need to just totally revamp it, right? All right.
When you hear about these Americans that go over to Europe and they just move there forever. Yeah. When they talk about it, why did you want to? Because I love the culture. I love the people. I love everything about this, city or whatever. They don't move there because I really wanted to bring American culture to where I was. Mm-hmm. That's not why you move to a different place, to bring your culture to it.
So I'm just going to read some of these. The Swedish society do not encourage people to have children. That's one of these big things with feminism. Fertility in Sweden is 1.6. This low birth rate and high immigration, you're going to see with the effects of what you're seeing is that in the 1970s, total population was about 8 million. There was only about 76,000 migrants.
Immigrants. Step to the side so they can read that. Then in 1980, it goes to 186. 1990, we were going to 500,000, 600,000 in 2000, 800,000 in 20. That's 1 million in 2010. Here we are, 22 million, almost 3 million. But okay, these are projected now. We're in projected. Yeah. We're at 2040. That's 4 million. 2045, 5 million. 2055, 5 million. 2065, 6 million. 2070, 7 million. Set to the side so they can read that because they're not going to be able to see any of that as it goes.
So in less than 100 years, you're going to see total takeover. Wow. And you're already seeing it. What the numbers that you really want to see are what we're at right now in like 2025, 2020, right? So you've got a population of 10 million versus 2.8 million immigrants, which is roughly 25% of the population. And it's totally revamped. We showed you the video of Lauren Southern, what's happening in Australia, where you have these no-go zones. These people, they don't become Swedish. It's not like you're walking through a Swedish town. If these people had Swedish towns, and it just so happened, I mean, like, I live in Milford, Ohio. I can walk through Milford, Ohio, and it's just American, right? We might have some Mexican restaurants. We have some Chinese restaurants. Yeah. We are very diverse, as a country. We have all kinds of, you got your little Chinatown and things like that. When people start to separate, like they do in California. When I went to California, it was awful. Because they had literally like...
You get culture whiplash. You go down a block and you're in a different culture. You go down another block and you're in another culture. You go to the grocery store and nobody speaks English. Which I don't really have a problem with, but it makes communication in life very difficult. Like, let's say, okay, I go to a European country and I don't speak that language. At least I know that there's one language that I can learn and we can have a communication. When you go to a lot of stores in California, you would have to learn like 6 different languages to be able to communicate with everybody there. Mm-hmm. And it makes living very difficult because people don't want to just embrace the culture where they are at.
All right, so now on to Brexit. Horatio shared on Facebook, oh no! With Brexit there being no sandwiches! No sandwiches, no lettuce, no tomato, no supply line. Will you starve to death in Britain without the EU? Seriously, it has got to be, as Horatio put it, this is full on BBC. This is just absolutely insane. And then they topped it. They topped the no sandwiches with
gonorrhea. If Brexit goes through, you are going to have a gonorrhea outbreak across all of Europe and the UK. I mean, we are talking of an epidemic portion. They aren't joking. This isn't one of those Guido Fawkes articles. They are serious about this because they're afraid that if they don't have open communication between the UK and the EU about these diseases, then it's just going to spread and spread and spread.
Brexit could lead to the spread of an infectious diseases such as super gonorrhea.
Thank you, Worth a Look, for sharing this with us, by the way.
So here's the thing about this, okay? The migrants coming in are actually bringing in, like, they wiped out tuberculosis in the UK. And there are cases of tuberculosis, TB now, from the migrants. Like, the exact opposite is the case. The open migration, the exact opposite is what's happening.
Right.
Sicknesses and diseases from other people are coming in. It's just so crazy. You have this from the standard UK, infectious diseases such as super gonorrhea. So it's not enough to just have gonorrhea, right?
It's super.
To really scare you, everyone, oh my gosh, starts scratching. Could spread more rapidly if the UK leaves the European Union, health chiefs have warned. Britain is said to be under significant threat from such diseases after Brexit if the government doesn't work out a way of maintaining a close working relationship with European health bodies. Y'all had like the Black Plague, and that was kind of spread pretty, from house to house, and like if you're caring for somebody.
Hang on, I got to tell y'all something how gonorrhea gets spread. It's not through using the same fork as somebody.
No.
No. That is not how it spreads. So when you're talking about this spread of super gonorrhea, maybe we could talk about how it gets from one person to another person. It's just if we breathe in the same air, you ain't going to get it. Just so y'all know, you can use your imagination as to how you get it, but it's not through breathing the same air. It's not through sneezing on a tissue and then touching it. That's not how it happens.
The UK's proximity to mainland Europe and high levels of cross-border travel on the continent mean that without a closely joined-up approach, the results could be disastrous. Niall Dickinson, chief executive of the NHS Confederation, said to The Standard, "At the moment, our strongest concern is a huge level of uncertainty. We are just not clear of where this is all going to land. The only positive is that we can say this is not only about UK patients, it is about the European patients who will be affected as well. It is in everyone's interest to maximize cooperation. Diseases do not recognize borders." So open borders are a bad thing. We need to put political interests behind the interests of patients. Tracking outbreaks requires collaboration. So you have outbreaks of measles in England and Wales have repeatedly been linked to those in countries in Eastern Europe, while in 2017 a multi-country outbreak of salmonella was linked to Polish eggs. So that is what they're most afraid about, salmonella. The claims follow revelations from a Tory MP close to Theresa May that the government plans to scare people witless over the summer about the supposed consequences. Listen, guys, if it's sandwiches and gonorrhea, I think we're going to be okay. I think you'll be fine. You're going to have to come up with another strategy. Oh, and downing airplanes, making sure airplanes can't fly. Which would see Britain leaving the European Union without a formal exit agreement. And deal with it on normal deal with it as it already does with New Zealand, Australia, and the United States.
Right.
I think we're okay. Are we spreading, infectious gonorrhea back and forth?
Well, okay, but here's the thing, and I want you to finish that article, but they're acting as if there was a no-deal Brexit. All communications between the UK and the EU would be completely shut off. I mean, we are talking, this is the worst divorce you can imagine. Okay, we had a friend of ours stop by the other day. Long story short, new rule is that the father cannot communicate with the mother at all except through the 17-year-old son via the new girlfriend's rules. There's no communication whatsoever. We cannot talk. That is it. That's not what's going to happen with a no-deal Brexit. For centuries, countries have been in communication with each other outside of just normal government things. For the past 100 years, governments have done a really good job, even with governments that we're almost just enemies with. If we have to communicate on some sort of important level, we do. This is not, this is ridiculous.
Wait, I'm going to just explain this to you. Teresa had her white paper, and I actually don't like the name of that. This is, I find it kind of ridiculous.
I think it's great. It's like toilet paper.
And it's a 70-page total concessions. She said it was going to do everything Brexit planned to do, but it really doesn't.
No.
It really just makes you a vassal state.
Yep.
And Boris Johnson, my brain and my mouth aren't connected. Boris Johnson left the government over this white paper, saying that this was not Brexit. And
this right here is exactly why I'm never going to be famous enough to have screenshots taken of my face. Okay? Because she could be in the middle of saying any kind of word and not look like death warmed over, and they grab that screenshot, and it's like, that's why I'm happy being low-key, man, because y'all people are not taking, don't do it, do not do it, screenshots of us with, like, the worst faces ever. But these people, they take screenshots, they put them I use them too, as thumbnails on their videos of terrible, that's horrible.
This is, an MP close to Theresa May has revealed she plans to scare people witless about the consequences of a no-deal Brexit over the summer in order to win support for her Chequers plan. An anonymous Tory MP described as an ally of the Prime Minister told BBC News Night, "We want to scare people witless so people will eventually embrace the Theresa May plan." That's not how democracy works.
And I don't think that the Brits are going to buy it.
This scheme will involve the release of 70 official documents over the next several weeks, describing a series of contingency plans in the event of a no-deal Brexit, which would see the United Kingdom walk away from the EU without a formal bilateral agreement. This has been described in lewd terms as the cliff edge Brexit, or crashing out of the EU, with aeroplanes grounded and the country forced to stockpile food and medicines, and what EU loyalist Dominique Grieve MP has described as a national emergency. This is the Leo Varadkar, implying Britain won't be able to fly over Irish airspace after Brexit, is probably the dumbest comment made this year. Take a look at just how many flight paths from Dublin cross over the UK. You can't take back your waters and then expect to use other people's skies.
Huh. Wow.
This is absolutely hilarious to me. You can't use the sky. You guys, there's already we already have aerospace treaties. Everything's fine.
We're all fine here.
Everything's fine. Bizarre stories have already appeared in mainstream media outlets such as the BBC News and The Independent, claiming a no-deal Brexit could mean no more sandwiches, and butter and cheese and yogurt becoming more expensive. So here's the headline. BBC achieves peak project fear with Brexit threat to sandwiches headline. The BBC has run a story headlined with this Brexit threat that literally says Brexit threat to sandwiches. And I read this and I laughed my pants off. Sandwiches could be the first victims of the breakdown of the food supply chain in the event of disorderly no-deal Brexit. Everybody's so afraid. They're stockpiling food. Listen, you can't stockpile lettuce and tomatoes, by the way.
Yeah,
so if you're worried about
seasonal.
sandwiches, you can. And here's the thing. The UK, we have been watching the Great British Bake Off. Y'all will be fine with bread. Because y'all got homemade. What you need is more people baking bread right out their home and selling.
Hang on, though, because I have an issue with a country or a government that thinks they can put their country in fear that you will not get fresh vegetables. Have you ever heard of a garden? Is that even a thing? Because here on our one little acre, we were able to grow one year, which we haven't done it in a while because it takes a lot of our land to do it. We were able to grow probably a 50-pound, probably about a 25-pound sack of wheat, right? And make our own bread off of that. And that's just in a very small plot of our 1 acre, okay? So the fact that they're saying, oh, you won't have butter, you won't have this, you know what? Actually, I would be really excited if maybe you guys were getting your foods from your own country. It's awful. It's bad for the planet to be shipping in breads and tomatoes and lettuce from other countries. I don't care how close you guys are. You shouldn't even be getting it from the next city over. Every city should be producing their own milk, their own cheese, their own butter, their own lettuce. You should be eating locally, okay? This is insanity that this would even be a thing of fear.
It's like you live in a desert and there's no food in Britain. That you have no farms.
You guys have plenty of farms. Look at Yorkshire. It's all farmland up there.
The gonorrhea thing is just, I think they really went too far with that.
You went too far with the sexually transmitted disease associated with animals.
Right. Exactly.
Seriously, because there's ways that you cannot get that. Like, one in particular.
They're saying that the army may have to be deployed to supply remote areas in the UK with food. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. So, anyways, peak BBC, Project Fear, don't fall into the fear.
Dale Jones, the UK will outlaw farms because it will make them less dependent on the government. And you know what? That's what they're trying to do here in the United States and kind of worldwide, depending on where you're at. They're wanting to get rid of farms because it makes you independent from the government. It makes you independent from the system, which is why on Resistance Chicks, we are always telling you guys, grow your own food, or at the very least, know your local. You can get beef local. You can get chicken local. You can get anything you want. You can buy it locally, and more often than not, you're not going to really pay that much more.
The EU, like here in the United States, the EU puts regulations on these small farmers. It's best to get out so the regulations are released.
Yeah. No worries that even if we can't get the kind of trade deal that we want, that isn't going to have a terrible effect on British companies, and there could well be job losses as a result of that if it isn't the kind of deal that we're speculating about at the moment.
My one big worry at the moment is that there's been a massive lobby from pro-Remain business people who have a religious attachment to the EU, that if there isn't a trade deal with the EU, we'll be in terrible trouble. I think myself, as things stand today, that we'll be better off without a deal, which has a negative connotation, no deal. But I actually think it'll be good. It'll mean that the government can abolish current EU tariffs on non-EU food imports, and if it does that, food prices will actually go down, which is the opposite of the fibs that have come from the CBI, the BRC, and various other organisations. And also, we can save £200 million a week. So I don't think we need to be in the club. Australia's not in it, New Zealand's not in it, the USA, Canada, South Korea aren't in the club. We can do well outside. We like Europeans, they're great people, but the idea that you have to be ruled from Brussels by unelected oligarchs is a fantasy.
Just a really great clip there. Weatherspoon's boss, Tim Martin. So I think Weatherspoon's must be a company in the UK there.
Where the look says, if they don't put Brexit through, I hope that people go to the Parliament and throw the law into the streets. I don't have a Manchester accent, sorry. It's the best I can do.
I love this. Butter, yogurt, and cheese could become occasional luxuries after Brexit. All cows to leave Britain after Brexit.
That is fantastic.
All yo cows, baby, they just gone. They moving.
Oh, that was good. That was really, really good.
I know.
Let's see. Lisa says, many families in the U.S. can buy a fifth of a cow and arrange the butchering with the farmer and put it in a large freezer. We do that a lot. Yeah. I think once a year, roughly, we buy about a half a cow and put it in the freezer.
Well, we haven't in a while, only
because we've been eating our own pork and chicken.
So poor Kansas, who is a beef guy, he's like, could you, and actually...
Do you know why we have some beef right now? Leah's about to tell you.
Go ahead.
Well, when Kelly and Eric and Steven came over to buy piglets from us, they blessed us with a boatload of ground beef.
And it was really good.
I don't even think we're done with it yet.
We still have some, but Kansas is like...
It was nice to have beef again. So Thank you very much for that again.
Okay, so Remainer MPs committee, they're demanding the government regulate and police the social media to stop fake news. Now, this is yet another attempt. Okay, we keep talking about all the different attempts to control things. This is another attempt to control things. The British government should increase oversight of social media like Facebook and the election campaigns. A parliamentary committee has recommended in a report on fake news, data misuse, and alleged interference by Russia. The interim report by the House of Commons Media Committee, to be released on Sunday, claimed democracy is facing a crisis because of the combination of data analysis and social media allows campaigns to target voters with a message of hate. That's you guys. By the way, your truth is now hate. Just to let you know, when people say hate speech, they don't mean hate anymore. They just mean truth, because the truth hurts them so bad. Tech giants like Facebook are complicit because they haven't done enough to protect personal information and remove harmful comment, the committee alleged. The light of transparency must be allowed to shine on their operations, and they must be made responsible and liable for the way in which harmful and misleading content is shared on their sites. So I'm just wondering, when I bring up the Daily Mail or even the UK Express, the main page is disgusting. Like, it is all tabloid. Yeah. It's all fake news. It's all disgusting. Right. But they don't want to shut them down. They're not upset.
I'm just helping you. You rubbed your eyeliner and I have a black line.
Thank you.
Welcome.
They're not upset about that kind of fake news.
Right.
They're afraid of the truth. When you hear fake news now, it's all just a bunch of malarkey. The study was due to be published Sunday, but a copy was leaked by Friday. Social media companies are under pressure worldwide following allegations that Cambridge Analytica used data. The committee recommended that British government increase the power of the Information Commissioner's Office to regulate social media sites, and Prime Minister Theresa May has pledged to address the issue in the white paper. So you've got the entire EU. It's absolutely insane. We recommend that a new category of tech company is formulated which tightens tech companies' liabilities and which is not necessarily either a platform or a publisher. I can't go into that too much. My blood pressure rises. So let me just move on because it's
before you move on, let me get to a couple of comments that I wanted to get to. First is Britt Baza says, Michelle, look back at the Land Army girls in World War II and the official dig for Britain political movement. Yeah. We fed ourselves in 6 months because we had to.
And the Land Army girls, I've seen some documentaries, they actually loved it. It was just this nice camaraderie of girls, and they were milking cows, and they were doing their thing to help with the British war effort. It was a beautiful time, actually.
So, Wicked Psyched, on a different topic, but still the same, because Leah can answer this. I can too, but Leah will do it better than I can. Says, I'm afraid to try canning or jarring. If I made a mistake, isn't there a high chance of botulism?
No, and there's really not, because if you made a mistake, it'll smell bad and it'll look funny.
You will know.
Don't eat it.
You will know if something is bad.
If you open your jar and it smells like great tomato sauce, you're fine. Just eat it. There's no chance that you're going to get sick if you have nostrils that smell and can sense.
And like, oh, dude, that is not right.
And
something not right here.
We have, like, our tomatoes will grow a little weird white fungus, and you can just tell, and you toss it.
So we have probably,
and you can push on the top,
and if
it sucks down, you'll see that if it's popped up. If you're doing real canning with the ball jar lids, if it pops up, then it didn't seal. So
we have probably canned. What do you think? I don't even have a number, but it's somewhere between probably 5,000 and 15,000 jars. I have no idea how many it's been, but it's been a lot since we started canning roughly 10 years ago.
It's just a lot.
It's a lot. Okay, we put up like at least 1,000 jars a season almost. Maybe not that much. Like 500 probably. That sounds pretty reasonable. I think it's more than that. But anyway, we put up a lot of our food, and over the years, we've probably tossed, of our own stuff, not stuff that people gave us, we've probably only tossed about 30, 40 jars of stuff.
Less than that, because it's usually, this year and last year, I don't think I've tossed any of ours.
Yeah.
In the beginning, when I guess we're still learning and stuff like that, I was tossing like maybe 2 jars a year.
Yeah. It's not a lot. So it's very, and and those jars that we tossed, some of them were probably okay. We just, to be on the safe side, got rid of it. So I think that you're safe.
Start canning.
Do it.
It's so easy. Once you do it, you'll realize how easy it
Adeline points out that Heather on Goin' Batty has tutorials on canning. We have not plugged their channel in a long time. If you guys are not subscribed to Goin' Batty, please go and do it now.
And if you're on MassFay 3, we have how-to on how to can. The one thing we haven't put up there is a tomato one. I don't know why.
We've canned, so there's pressure canning.
I don't think
we haven't put any videos up on pressure canning, which things like soup and meats that you can can totally safely.
That is a little bit more difficult only because you need to regulate the pressure canner thing.
Right.
So,
that's just more dangerous from an explosion standpoint.
Right. Afghan father of 3-year-old acid attack victim charged and remained in custody. Remember how we told you the guy who, there was like 5 or 6 guys in a shopping center and they threw acid on a 3-year-old we talked about this last Sunday, I believe. And Michelle was like, it's got to be the mom who was the victim, the intended victim. And it was.
Wait, Gene Wallace says, British potatoes are fed to pigs because we grow too many. Chips, mashed, boiled. Britons will never starve. Government Project Fear. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Gene. There's a Wolverhampton resident who cannot be named for legal residence, and 4 other men in their 20s who are from Slovakia. They were teaming up with this Afghan national, 39-year-old Afghan national. There were initially delays as to the proceedings as the court was waiting for Afghan and Slavic interpreters. All the men are remained in custody and denied any wrongdoing through their solicitors. 3-year-old boy suffered serious burns to his face and his arm at a home bargain store in
Worcester
on Saturday afternoon whilst he was being pushed in a carriage by his mother. The prosecutor said his mother heard the child crying and saw he was holding his arms and couldn't open his eyes. She had to call an ambulance. When the child's face turned red, it was revealed that the pink substance thrown or sprayed on the child was sulfuric acid, and this was intended for the mom. She wasn't wearing hijab. She had left the father. They were asylum seekers, and she left him, and he stalked her and wanted to throw acid on her because this is part of the religion that shall not be named.
Wow.
We covered this a little bit on Friday, but the UK government finally launches the ethnic origin study of the child rape gangs after decades of abuse. The real question is, will they release the numbers, and will the numbers be skewed somehow?
Exactly.
But they Sarah Champion, she was the one. She had been speaking about it. She's like, we have to be able to talk about this, right? And I think she lost her position as I'm not sure where she lost a position, and Sajid Javid says MPs should be able to do their job without being threatened or intimidated anyway. Sarah Champion has my full support. She made the comment last year that you need to be able to look at the white girls being raped by Muslim men.
It does not make any sense. Okay, so. We have friends, many of you, even in the chat here, are atheists or agnostic, and you believe in evolution because you want to look at the facts. You want to take the data itself, raw, look at the facts, and then make a decision just based solely on facts. When they remove this element from crime solving or crime prevention...
We have full TV shows. They're called The Profiler.
Right. You have to... It's insanity to look at a crime and not take every possible bit of information. You have these crime solvers that say, what is the link? What is the link? How are these crimes linked together? There has to be a link. And if you do not analyze every tiny bit of data, and this is a huge part, like this is at least 50%, if not 75% of the pie to solving and stopping and preventing these crimes. And what the government is saying is they don't want to stop the crimes.
To investigate more perpetrators or possible perpetrators.
Right.
Because then you're racially profiling, but that is what profiling is all about.
They would rather more crimes be committed and justice not be done than to racially profile.
They feel like
or
the
regionally
crime, they feel like they feel like the crime is to profile people.
Right. The crime to profile people is worse than an actual rape or an actual acid attack or something like that.
Right.
It's so wrong. It's really wrong.
In the UK, in Britain, there were 1,112 Syrian refugees that were resettled in the UK in the first 3 months of the year. The Home Office now admits there was not one single Christian among them. The information, including the rejection of Christian applicants, came to light following the Freedom of Information request by the Barnabas Fund, a charity that supports persecuted Christians. Only Muslim refugee applicants from the war-torn country have been accepted and resettled. The statement by the charity said the Barnabas Fund recently reported that of the 7,060 Syrian refugees the UNHCR recommended to the UK in 2017, only 25 were Christians that were even recommended. However, the Home Office only accepted 11 of these, meaning that Christians made up only 2.23% of Syrian refugees resettled in the UK last year. They further explained they had to go to considerable lengths to obtain these figures in the face of what appeared to be a substantial attempt by the Home Office to avoid their release. The Home Office only provided the information after the charity took the extreme step of obtaining an order of information from the High Court. The statement continued, "It is widely accepted that Christians who constituted about 10% of Syria's pre-war population were specifically targeted by jihadi rebels." Remember, Muslims can go anywhere in the Middle East, right? Christians cannot. So if you're going to take anybody who needs help, you're going to take the Syrian Christian refugees, right? Who are going to integrate into British society because they have the same Christian values.
Hang on. Stacy says, Rosa Sharon, girls, Minnesota has a huge rape surge and they are not persecuting these pig rapists. Prosecuting, thank you. Why? Because they are Islamic. Patriot Gallery.
Well, on Friday we were talking a bunch and we came up with this kind of saying because Australia, a police officer was protecting pedophiles, rapists, slavery, and Muslims. Right. And he wasn't protecting the white girl who was not a pedophile, who didn't believe in slavery. That means your police officers are cowards. Cowards. The Bible says the government is put there to punish wicked doers and reward good behavior. Right. So your government isn't a government. A police officer isn't a police officer anymore if he's protecting somebody who rapes, who pillages, who steals. You know, if they're protecting Muslims who rape children and believe in slavery and hold their wives as slaves and beat their wives, then they're cowards. It's no longer a government. Government there is to protect these wicked people who do these wicked things. Right. And you got to believe God's telling you the truth. Your government is no longer a government to obey or believe or listen to if they are protecting people who harm other people. Government's there to punish people who harm other people.
Well said.
So, going to Australia, and I do want to play the Lauren Southern video again that Mom just talked about, but I do want you to know that Australia itself is divided. And so when we look at Australia and you see this no-go zone, you also see this. Australia, a model for curbing immigration. 4 years ago, the Australian government sparked criticism after it ran an advertisement aimed at discouraging asylum seekers for travelling illegally to the country. No way, the poster read. You will not make it to Australia. You will not make Australia home. If you get on a boat without a visa, you will not end up in Australia. Any vessel seeking illegally to enter Australia will be intercepted and safely removed beyond Australian waters. That was pretty good. I have to admit.
Pretty good. It wasn't thick, but it was there.
Yeah, but not every.
It doesn't have to be the thick one, right?
Right. It was an extremely tough message, but it worked. Australia's migration rate is the lowest it's been in 10 years, said Peter Dutton, Australia's Home Affairs Minister, speaking last week on the Today Show. Dutton added that the drop was about restoring integrity to our border. Let's see if the video's there. That'd be nice, right? It's funny because in Australia, a lot of their videos are harder to play.
Chris O'Keefe has more for us. Chris, good morning. What's the advice?
Good morning, Davina. Well, it's pretty simple. Get your child vaccinated because in New South Wales, at least, it is free. Now, that child did pass away at the Children's Hospital at West.
That is not what we want. That's not the video. Come on. Immigration levels plunge.
They don't want you to see that one.
But maybe it is the one. Maybe it was just like gonna play. Let's just try
it. It is the influenza. All pregnant woman, it's free. If you're in up with.
No, that's not
Patriot Gallery. Back again.
Well, I left some out. You can never leave things out of Scripture. I left some out of Scripture. That's why police officers carry guns. They carry billy clubs. They carry weapons. The Bible says government is given a sword to punish those who use violence. Exactly. So somebody said Lauren Sutherland in the chat. And I'm like, well, that's why the police officer has a gun. That's why a police officer has a sword. So if the Muslims rise up to use violence, the government is given swords to defend the innocent person from them. Right. But in the Muslim character in that situation, they needed an army. And they do need an army. They need an army to go in and stand guard. And if these men use violence against Lauren Sutherland.
Southern.
It's okay. I say it all the time.
Okay. Anyways, anybody. And the point of Scripture says God has given a government a sword to protect innocent people. And that's what an army is for. Armies protect the innocent people.
I agree.
And so if you got a standing army of violent men like that, you need to use an army against them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you find your video?
I think
More
so.
than 160 power plants, gas works, water facilities, and
No, it's like they don't want to play it. It's like it says Israel's immigration takes plummets, and then the videos aren't that. It's so weird. We'll go back to the article. I guess you're going to hear me.
Sounds like
That's
a
what
conspiracy theory.
I know. You're just going to have to hear me. Here that the job was about restoring integrity to our border. The Australians are apparently happy with that. A new poll revealed that 72% of voters support Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's immigration policy. Australia, a Western democracy, has for years tried to deal with the migration crisis from the sea. He said, Jim Mullen says, Europeans think it's easy in Australia to control our borders, but they're just making up excuses for doing nothing themselves. That's the retired Major General Jim Mullen on the asylum policy. In 2013, Tony Abbott was elected Prime Minister under the slogan, Stop Boats, Stop the Boats. Is now also the slogan of the new Italy's Interior Minister, Matteo Salvini, who, since the formation of the new government last month, have been totally focused on curbing migration as the world's most lethal route across the Mediterranean. It was seen that the best possible for Europe to implement is a skills-based immigration system to curb the illegal one. Last year, EU officials came to Australia for help. At a recent summit, European Union member states agreed to copy the Australian model of turning back the migrant boats and sending them to third world countries, to centers there run by local authorities on the model of the Manus Regional Processing Center in Papua New Guinea, which was used to house migrants turned away from Australia. Italy is now looking to create similar reception centers in Libya. Francois Crepeau, the UN Special Rapporteur on Migrant Human Rights, urged Europe not to view Australia as a model. He labeled the idea cruel and inhumane and degrading. Stopping migrants from dying at sea, however, is the opposite of cruelty. It is humanity. We have got hundreds, maybe thousands of people drowning in attempts to get from Africa to Europe, Abbott said. The only way you can stop the death is to stop the boats. Australia's Immigration Minister Peter Dutton explained that we are not going to accept people who have sought to come to our country illegally by boat. Humanitarians, as Abbott put it, were helping them in the name of a misguided altruism. Under the government of Australia's former Prime Minister Julia Gillard, in May 2013, Australia excised even the mainland from its migration zone. That means that migrants might be sent to the detention facilities abroad, even if their ships landed. The Australian model is not only based on keeping the border safe and prioritizing highly skilled immigrants, it also revolves around the idea of the cultural legacy that the migrants have to embrace. Prime Minister Turnbull said he wants a test for immigrants of Australian values, including questions of whether it is acceptable to strike your spouse, ban girls from education, or carry out female genital mutilation. That should be a thing, right? In multicultural Europe, the same test would be taboo. Turnbull has called to defend these Australian values, preserving the nation state and its cultural Western tradition. Italy is now dealing with this and turning boats back. And from that, I think that's probably going to take me to Italy.
Barry says, Australia's borders are easy to police. Just make all migrants swim the last mile into Australian shores. Those that get through the great white sharks and the great white tiger and bull sharks can settle.
Italy's Deputy Prime Minister warns the EU is trying to swindle Britain, negotiating with no good faith. Italy, new Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini has made a shock intervention in the Brexit negotiations, warning the British that there's no good faith on the EU side. The political firebrand who leads one half of Italy's new populist coalition government warned Theresa May that there is no objectivity or good faith from the European side of the negotiations, and that repeatedly giving in to the EU demands will make you look like a sissy. He didn't say that. I said that. But he basically said that.
I like the way you said it.
Yeah. My experience in the European Parliament tells me you either impose yourself or they swindle you. Stand up, get a backbone, or you're a jellyfish and they will walk right over you. The Remain supporting Prime Minister Theresa May has already agreed to pay out $39 billion. Blah, blah, blah. You guys know what's in the white paper. The longtime Eurosceptic Salvini told the Sunday Times he wanted to see Brexit succeed. I remember the referendum as an example of participation and freedom. I hope it can be an opportunity for the British. And this is what you have. And when I read that line, I read it before, I thought, oh my gosh, dude, everybody gets it. If you get it, you get it. I want to make Italy great. You have the Italian Prime Minister saying, I want to see the UK be great.
Right.
I want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
I want to see you be. You got the Polish people saying, I want to see countries succeed. You know, you've got every country saying, I want to see you succeed. No, I want to see you succeed. No, I want to see you succeed. But you have the EU saying, I'm going to control your success, right? So what it does is it literally strips people of their humanity. And you shared a tremendously awesome video of the guy on depression.
Yeah.
Stripping people from a purpose in their life.
Right.
When you are a constant child.
Yeah.
When your fate is in the hands of somebody else, you lose the reason to get up in the morning.
Right.
You lose the reason to have life and have excitement when you don't have a reason to live and a purpose. And the EU tells you what your purpose is.
Exactly, because it can't just be a purpose. Like the EU is like, oh, but we give everybody a purpose. They're a little worker bee in our system, and everybody has a job. You know what? I keep bees. And unless it's the queen, if I accidentally squish one, they're kind of expendable. Right. I have to tell you.
And that's the way they view you.
And so you have to understand what your purpose and what your calling is from God. And then you have to be free to walk that out. And in Europe, with the European Union, you are not free to walk out your purpose and your calling before God.
So we have Lady Liberty on this silver dollar, but we had Patrick Henry with a really great slogan. He said, give me liberty or give me death. And when you have the socialist safety nets of healthcare or public schooling or anything like that, you give up so much. You give up your liberty. You give up your humanity and who you are.
Exactly.
And so I get goosebumps when I hear Salvini saying, I want to see the UK succeed. You know, I do too. And that's what people don't understand on the left. They brainwashing people because, like, you have people in America saying, I want to see every country succeed. I want to see you be great. I want to see your people be great. I want to see them have entrepreneurship and have small businesses and have small trade. And I want to see every single person succeed. That is a Christian principle, that you're endowed. You have a God-like essence to you. Mm-hmm. God put his spirit inside of you, and you have a purpose. And you have a purpose. We all, when we're doing our purpose that God gave us, we're not harming the environment.
Right.
We're not going to be murderers. We're going to stop the murderers.
Exactly.
We're going to stop the rapists. We're going to stop when we are able to fulfill our purpose. That's why you need a Second Amendment, because you need to be able to fulfill your purpose. Because, yes, sometimes you need to be able to step in and stop an intruder. Sometimes you need to stop a rapist. Sometimes the police aren't there and you have somebody coming after you, and you need to fulfill your God-given right and purpose to protect your life and your family.
Yes.
So these are God-given rights that God has given us, not necessarily a right to have a gun, but a right to protect ourselves. And since we have guns, I have a right to have a gun. So he goes on to say he hopes for the most positive outcome in the negotiations, telling the newspaper he wants to see them end well for the UK to serve as an example of the people coming out on top of the EU. So, bingo. That's why the European Union does not want a good thing with Brexit. They want you to suffer because they want to teach you a lesson. This is not level playing fields with negotiations.
Right.
Trump, he talks a big game, but he believes in equal playing fields. He literally says, I'm going to bring my best game. You bring your best game. I will respect you. You respect me.
Right.
So when he hammers the EU on things, he is saying, you bring your best game. You put your countries first.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put my country first, and let's hash it out.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, we're going to have a good deal for both people.
Yes.
But that's not what's happening right now. Salvini seemed to be aware of this possibility that the Brussels insiders wanted to end badly. And the European Union runs a substantial trade surplus with the United Kingdom, despite the multiple scare stories suggesting the country will virtually collapse if it is not in the bloc. The arithmetic suggests that a no-deal scenario will leave Brussels the biggest loser. And this is no deal hurts EU more than the UK.
It really does, and that's why they are doing the fear-mongering, because they know that they will, when Brexit happens, and Brexit will happen, and I'm hoping for a no-deal Brexit. I don't know that will happen or not, but it is going to be really bad for the European Union regardless, and they're scared.
That's going to be your favorite headline.
Italy Salvini wants more babies. If you're a migrant, a country which does not create children is destined to die. I love that title. Everybody make a baby for the country. Antonio Salvini, he says, I want my babies in my country. I want my people to make the babies. And I want you to make the babies. And resistance chicks, we want everybody making the babies for the country. Please go to make the babies today. Right now, maybe leave resistance chicks go to make the babies.
I'm gonna die.
This is my favorite part of the show. You love it and I love it. Making the babies not war.
Mi amore.
Mi amore. It's the greatest thing. It's the greatest thing ever. God created the earth for the making the babies. For the country.
I'm gonna die.
Please.
I'm gonna die.
If you're married. If you're not married, don't go to make the babies yet. Step one, go and get married. Step two, and make the babies. Please. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
What does he have to say?
Italy's new deputy prime minister and minister of the interior, Matteo Salvini, is following Hungary's Viktor Orban. I love these men. Like, everybody, Poland is putting out videos to help people make babies.
Yes!
To try to tell people that making babies is a good thing.
It
because,
is a good
like,
thing.
Under communism, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
That one should decrease your population. And so they're coming out of it. So, like, Sweden needs a whole, like, make a baby thing going on. But they don't have that yet. But I love that what is happening... What's happening and people are getting back to the purpose of God. Like, why did God create 2-1? To create a godly seed. It's in the Bible. To have children. When you don't see children as a blessing, as a country and as a people, your soul dies.
Right.
You need to see, like, imagine a big Italian family. You just see the pizza flowing and the pasta flowing and you got your aunties and your uncles and you just see this beautiful Italian family and you just love them all the babies. I got them all the babies in my family. I just love the babies, right? And you just see this love.
It's really fun, isn't it?
It is really fun. It is really fun. So when as a country and as a culture, when you embrace life,
Cecilia Gal says that sounds like my family dinner.
you to make the babies. Now you to make me the grandmama. You're going to make the babies. When you be the married, make me the babies. It's really hilarious. Yeah, I can totally see it. But you see this tidal wave of life happening, right? And what you're doing is literally embracing the call of God.
Yes.
Right? Because why did God make Adam and Eve? To have children, right?
I had this revelation the other day, and it goes like this. I gave it to two of my friends, and I think it sunk in. When God created the universe, right? Then he created all the animals and Adam and all this, that, and the other. You guys know how it goes. God literally said to Adam, look at all these animals that I've created. Is there a helper? Because Adam was not going to have babies with the lion if he had chose the lion as helper. Why is there that emotional connection? People get married and they're like, well, we're soulmates and we don't have to have children because our souls are just tied together. No, that's not really why God brought you. Could just be the helper, just platonic. Why did God bring you together as one? To bring
times at the historic Palazzo del Viminale in Rome. The country which does not create children is destined to die, he said bluntly. We have created a ministry of the families to work on fertility.
See, they shut
nurseries.
It down when they don't like what we have to say.
We're not gone yet, are we?
I don't know how we are on Facebook.
On a fiscal system which takes large families into account. At the end of this mandate, the government will be measured on the number of newborns rather than its number of public debt. The government will be measured on a number of newborns rather than its public debt. Number of children. He's like, we want to encourage large Italian families again. Make Italy great again. That's how you do it, baby. Have babies. The 45-year-old warned that nothing less than Italy's tradition, our story, our identity was at stake, particularly as the political left was using declining birth rates and the supposed threat of an aging population to excuse the import of immigrants. We need these immigrants. No, we just make a babies, baby. That's what we are doing here. The Italian leader appears to be following in the footsteps of conservatives in Central Europe, particularly Poland and Hungary, who have made a conscious decision to pursue pro-family policies. You're going to make a lot of people happy. You know what I mean? Like when you are encouraging, and like when the whole society sees children as a blessing, then you see children as a blessing, and the anointing comes on you, and then your family is happier. Like your marriage is happier when you see children as a blessing, and you have these blessings. I'm going to make them more blessings, and making the blessings is actually kind of exciting. You know what I mean? So it's like a win-win.
Win-win, all around winning with children.
And look, after winning a third term with the parliamentary supermajority earlier this year, Hungary's Viktor Orban made it abundantly clear that his government would concern itself primarily with how many children are born to Hungarian women and how many children we raise together, whether there will be a Hungarian future, whether the Hungarian nation will survive biologically and numerically, what we must do to stop the decline we clearly see in this area, and what we must do is change the fact that we have more funerals than christenings.
Wow. Boom. That's a mic drop.
Shut the book, baby. New policies intended to help responsible married couples into home ownership, support childbearing, and raise incomes may already be bearing fruit. The U.S.-based Institute of Family Studies suggesting the country is actually successfully winding back the clock on much of the fertility, and I have goosebumps all over me, and family structure transition that people who study demographics have long considered inevitable. The stance of Orban and Salvini stands in a marked contrast to that of many left liberal politicians in Western Europe, such as Germany's Gregor Gysi, who believed it is not just necessary but actively desirable that local people be replaced by new Europeans from a migration background. He says this. He literally says, ladies and gentlemen, I hereby prompt you to participate
at the protest. Live better without Nazis. Diversity is our future. On the 6th of June at 10 a.m. in Neuruppin, we have to take a stand against the Nazis. Because of our history between 1933 and 45, we are obliged to treat refugees properly.
I don't think that you were kicking out refugees at the time.
Yeah, I know.
Jewish Germans, pretty much a thing.
Mm-hmm. We also have to save their lives in the Mediterranean. There has to be a legal, unbureaucratic way to get asylum in Europe. Countries like Poland, very Catholic by the way, have to be willing to accept more refugees. Oh, and by the way, every year more native Germans die. Nazis. He's talking about Nazis right now.
He just said the German people are Nazis. He's talking about himself. He's talking about his people.
That's really unfortunate. This decline of Germans is why we are so dependent on immigration from foreign countries. See you at the protest. Live better without Nazis. Diversity is our future. So this German
literally says Germans should die off.
That Germans should die off because they're all Nazis.
That is so insane.
That's really sad. Okay, can I do, first of all, because it's our show, and y'all people can argue with me, most of you will not. While we're talking about having babies, it is important to have babies. It's very important to have babies. But in my circle of life, I have to watch what I can and cannot say to people that are having babies. And I can tell you guys exactly what I think. If you have a child in the United States, vaccines are a no-no, because a lot of people are afraid to have children in the United States because of the rise of autism and other childhood diseases. We've got juvenile diabetes. We've got juvenile arthritis. We have all of these things that we are seeing on a huge rise, not only because of vaccines, but because of the chemicals in our foods and stuff like that. So not only do I want you to make babies, but I want you to keep those babies healthy. And that starts by doing your own research. Maybe just watch the movie Vaxxed. Start there, and then maybe assessing the fluoride in the water and things like that to keep those babies that you be having in America healthy. In Europe and in the UK, it hasn't gotten as bad there yet. Well, because GMOs are outlawed, their vaccines, they're not actually trying to make their infants sick.
Right.
Their children, they're not. So the vaccines are a little bit safer, not 100%, but a little bit safer in Europe.
And why? I want to go over a few more negative things because we've been super positive today. Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
In the Dutch tourist spot of Amsterdam, it is turned into an urban jungle after dark as police are powerless to handle the crime, the violence, and the drugs. We're going to make prostitution legal. It'll just make everything safer. No, not really. Anybody who would sell people for sex is a total criminal and evil in their head.
Well, we're talking about, I'm going to interrupt you here. We're talking about mobs, mafias, anybody that would traffic sex.
Yeah.
Even in an adult, complete consensual, there are drugs, and there is drugs. There are drugs.
Drugs are being sold openly on their streets.
Right there in the same
Pedestrian
area.
areas are used for car and bike races. There's widespread theft and other offenses, and it's just absolute mayhem. The problem plaguing the capital of Netherlands may be part of a larger issue, according to the Dutch media. There are about 160,000 people irrevocably convicted who have avoided punishment. As an experiment, Zurman set up 3 CCTV cameras at Leidensplein Square, a busy area encircled by bars and clubs located on the southwestern part of the city center. One night, we encountered 900 offenses, mainly between 2 and 4 in the morning. The atmosphere is grim, and there is an air of lawlessness. The ombudsman further told Trouw, scooters race through the pedestrian areas. There is a lot of shouting. Drugs are being bought. There is stealing. And the police do not intervene in any of it. There is violence but no action. You can even pee on the van of a mobile police unit, and the driver won't say anything. He also described the situation at the square at night as an intolerable lack of authority. Zurman explains that the situation is partly due to the government policy. The government has deliberately stimulated tourism after the economic crisis, but has forgotten to take the additional measures there. You have an ISIS state supporter who called for attack on Prince George to be stabbed in prison. An internet terrorist who urged his social media followers to target Prince George at school has reportedly been stabbed in prison.
Wow.
Hussein Rashid, 32, provided advice on how a lone wolf terrorist could carry out an attack with poison chemicals, bombs, and knives. He was also in communication with a known ISIS fighter in Syria and ran his own internet channel. This week, he was allegedly slashed with a makeshift knife behind bars. Reports claim there was blood all over his cell. So there are really real threats all over Europe. Hungarian Prime Minister warns of Muslim influx and says every country has a right to reject immigration. Viktor Orban has took his stance during a speech at a summer university camp. He criticized globalization. He says, we Central Europeans assert that there is life beyond globalism, that it is not the only path, and that the path of the Central Europe is that of an alliance of free nations. He added that the security of Hungary, of the whole of the Carpathian Basin, and of Europe depends on whether Turkey, Israel, and Egypt are stable enough to halt the Muslim influx. He said, if any of these countries lose stability, you're going to lose stability. And over here, I just wanted to... No, they're not showing that. Let's see. I wanted to bring to you Vladimir Putin. It's not that big of a deal. He celebrated their Russian Orthodox and says Christianity, the history of over 1,000 years of Russian Christianity. He celebrated that this big pomp and circumstance with the Russian Orthodox Church.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I had a little link there. Here it is. Putin, Christianity is the foundation of Russian nationhood and cultural identity. So we see Russia coming out, and we should encourage Russia coming out of communism and their stark atheism. We went to Russia in 1995, and they
were Russian spies.
They were just opening their churches back up again,
right?
And we visited a few. But it was like atheism was on, like the dark, empty soullessness of atheism had like been embedded in their culture for so long. But there are a lot of people who still clung to the Russian Orthodox Church. Our aunt, we have an aunt who's Russian. Like, oh, we're Russian.
Told you we're spies.
Spies here. She is Russian Orthodox, and she was Russian Orthodox, and they held on to this little bit of Christianity that they had. Vladimir Putin said the adoption of Christianity more than 1,000 years ago in the territory that later became Russia marked the starting point for forming the Russian nation itself. President Putin's comments come Saturday in a ceremony marking the 1030th anniversary of the adoption of Christianity by Prince Vladimir.
Maybe that's why he was happy to celebrate it.
The leader of the Kievan Rus, a loose federation of Slavic tribes that preceded the Russian state. Speaking to thousands of clergy and believers at a huge statue of the prince outside of the Kremlin, Putin said adopting Christianity was the starting point for the formation and development of Russian statehood, the true spiritual birth of our ancestors, and the determination of their identity. Identity, the flowering of national culture and education. When we were there, they were very poor.
Didn't we drive past that? We have pictures.
Well, we stayed like
we saw that
our uncle's apartment. Like you could see
walk
it.
To the
Kremlin. Like you could just walk. It was right there. He was a high up executive for an American company over there, and we went over there for his wedding. But we're solely Russian spies. It's hilarious to me.
Rabaza says, Michelle, I thought you looked like someone that worked at the Kremlin.
I know. So when we were there, I remember my aunt being like, she, with my uncle being really wealthy, she could afford food. And that was a big deal. Like, she could afford to buy meat, right? And they put dill. They did put dill and everything. It's kind of weird. Like, pickled, like, pork is kind of weird to me.
Russian food is weird.
Didn't really like it. I'm hoping it's changed a little bit. And I think it has changed a little bit because she was like, I can't believe you guys can get cream cheese in the United States. We can't get cream cheese here.
And I'm like,
I got a cream cheese for like $1.50 at the store.
Aunt Lil, we know how to make cream cheese. It's called getting milk and just making it. And that's what a communistic mindset will do to you. They keep you so dependent on the state that you can't think for yourself. You can't think outside the box. You can't think to yourself, you know what? I could make that. I could do that. They tell you you can't have it, and you're like, please, I need it, I need it, and then you could make it, and they don't. You can't. It's not independent thinking.
Under Putin, as corrupt as he is, okay, he has taken off like a lot of the barriers for entrepreneurs, and he's encouraging farmers.
Exactly.
He's encouraging dairymen. They're like, if you go to a certain part in Russia, they will give you 5 acres if you farm it and do something on it.
Right.
They'll just give you land.
I think if you're an American too, you could go and get free land
like there are Americans who are going over to Russia to start farms. There are South Africans. They're bringing in the persecuted white South Africans who are saying,
"I love it.
Farming is on the rise, and it's a good market to get into in Russia."
This is a great idea to take the white South Africans and farm and let them farm in Russia.
Yes,
get that to Lauren Southern so she can tell her people that she interviewed.
Yeah. So. They're setting it up. Russian welcomes the Afrikaners.
15,000 Boers plan to move to Russia. That's huge. That's a lot. I mean, how many are there? Almost 15,000 descendants of South Africa's white colonies are moving. They're ready to make a contribution to the farming development of the south of Russia, to invest their money in the Russian economy and give English lessons. At the first stage, about 30 families are going to migrate. A delegation of Boers arrived in Stavropol with a proposal to open a migration channel. Andrei Kristokovs. So the guests were greeted with new crop bread in such and such. The foreigners were surprised at a sheaf of wheat. With a sheaf of wheat. This is amazing. I love this, actually. The taste of Russian hospitality pleased the African Southerners. Oh my gosh, this is so great. They call themselves farmers and explorers. This family is representatives of Boers, descended of the Dutch farmers, who populated with fifth continent.
Populated the fifth continent.
Thank you. 200 years ago. Today's inhabitants of the Orange Free State are getting uncomfortable there. The land issues set at variance among the locals. It's a matter of life and death. There are attacks. It's got to the point where the politicians are stirring up a wave of violence. The Afrikaans decide to visit or even move to Russia after a German family had migrated here. Last winter, they fled from the European values and found home in the south of Russia. The Boers were inspired by their contagious example.
So look at this family. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids.
I love it. The climate here is temperate, and this land is created by God for farming. All this is very attractive. The migrants are ready to move to Stavropol with their families. They are planning to run farming, to set up communes like the Terek something, who were found by the settlers, similar to their ancestors settling down at the south of Africa. This is a kind of comb for horses. They are going to lease lands. To do this, every family is ready to bring up to $100,000 of their own funds. The brothers in faith were received in the Cathedral of Stavropol. The guests wanted to see an Orthodox church and to talk to the local clergy. The guests from South Africa are going to view the Kra for several days. After that, they want to visit Karake. Only then will they come home, discuss everything, and make a hard decision on the migration. They promised to send a letter on their decision.
So they're actually, Russia's actually kind of courting these.
Yeah, I like the way you said that.
They're bringing in money. They're not going to be dependent upon the government. They have farms to hopefully sell if they can before they get stolen and taken. Huge plight there. I get goosebumps and I tear up when I think about this. This is the love of God.
Yeah.
This is Christianity.
I believe it.
Like, this is God. Like, them loving Russia, like, it's a huge thing. Because, like, the very tip of South Africa to Russia, total different climate, like have to revamp your whole life, your whole family, everything that you've known. You've lived on the coast for, you know, all your whole life, and moving to start in Russia, you know, because Americans won't take you, because America's, you know, they're bringing in everybody from Mexico. What they need to do is, like, come in illegally from Mexico and then take, but then they won't allow them to stay. Do you have any comments on this? Because this is really kind of cool. The descendants of European colonists in South Africa, the Boers, are seeking their shelter in southern Russia.
Do you want me to read the comments or wait?
Go ahead.
Michael Constantine says, in the Russian part of China, the land goes to anyone willing to build a company, learn Russian, and naturalize.
They constitute an ethnic minority at home. You can read it if you want.
Not only have they been aggrieved for many years, but their right to exist is now threatened. Thus, about 15,000 people are ready to move to Crimea or Stavropol for good. By the way, these aren't poor people. An average Boer family has over $100,000 in wealth, which they plan to spend on houses and land. Anastasia reports on the plans for a new homeland.
Okay, so then there's the same kind of thing here. I'm going to go, here we go. I'm going to go back here, though, of why they're doing it.
They lived on communes and were engaged in farming until farming in South Africa became life-threatening. The PhD in economics, there are problems in the South African society between the Boers, which is the white population with Dutch origin, and the black population. Because most of the land belongs to Boers. Indeed, now there are some problems which often entail the deaths of both black and white people, mostly white. It looks like this most often. Black citizens come to the Boers' farms and demand that they leave the land. Since apartheid is over, the result of colonization should be canceled. The result is conflicts and shedding of blood. According to African human rights activist statistics, farmers are killed every day in South Africa. It's a matter of life and death. Attacks have become more frequent, and politicians have gone so far as to fuel violence. Logically, Boers might try to go back to their ancestors' homeland, the Netherlands, where their community also sent representatives to test the waters, just like to Russia. But South African farmers turned out not to share today's European overly tolerant values. Where can the Boers go? They are too far from Asia and its culture. Latin America is Catholic, which is also unacceptable for the piously Protestant Boers. Western Europe, including their historic homeland, the Netherlands, is also absolutely unacceptable for them due to the processes going on there, meaning migrants, same-sex marriages, etc. So the few countries that fit them are either Iceland, where it's almost impossible to move because they won't let them in, and Russia. By the way, it's the cathedral that the guests asked to be shown first. The second place was the Cossack Museum. Thank you.
And then we see that again. They're all kind of playing some of the same things, but...
And they wouldn't come empty-handed. They've got $100,000 for family. In exchange, they asked for the right to lease the land for farming and the possibility to get a residence permit to the Stavropol and these other places in Russia and Crimea.
International dialogue.
Firstly, the Boers want to find out how much their community can integrate into our society. Secondly, our climate resembles a lot like the climate of where they live in South Africa.
Okay.
As long as they are farmers, it would be comfortable for them to engage in agriculture because the climate is the same. The matter is now being discussed. On one hand, Russia is to consider how acceptable the conditions of cooperation are. On the other hand, the Boers' South African community is to decide if thousands of people are ready for a global migration. For now, they return home and hope to come back.
So this is how, like, migration should happen. It should be collaboration. Both countries say, hey, both are people. Okay, you can come in. If thousands of people are coming in, Russia is literally, okay, how is this going to happen? Let's discuss this. How are you going to live? How are you going to integrate?
Right.
That's a reasonable thing.
Yes, I
agree.
agree.
That's the way people originally immigrated into America.
If there is, when we talk about asylums and we talk about taking in migrants and refugees, we should do that to the people that are being persecuted the most. Mm-hmm. And so what we are seeing with Russia is they are doing that. The white Boer in South Africa, farmer, is being persecuted. They are being killed and their farms are being stolen. So if Russia is going to open up their arms to anyone right now to give their farmland to, it is a wise decision to give it to people that are not going to be dependent upon the state, that are going to be contributing members of their society, and who are open to integrating into the Russian culture. When we were there, I have to tell you, I love Russian people. Mm-hmm. They are amazing. We would go to the equivalent, I want to call it a farmer's market, but it wasn't. It was just a market where people could bring their wares and their crafts, right? And the craftsmanship of the average Russian. We would buy these wooden chess sets. We've since given them all away. We don't have any of this stuff anymore. But it will blow your mind. Weaving and tapestries and clothing and hats and you name it. Scarves.
We have scarves. My grandma still has some scarves.
I don't know if we there might be a Russian one. Here, this one is one of the ones that we bought in Russia. So I can't even get it open now. Probably has dog hair on it. But this is one that my grandma still had. You can even smell still like it did then. I think it's part wool. I don't know. But anyway, these people are great people. So when our Polish friends, who are also equally awesome and kind of similar, and I hope that doesn't offend you, hate Russia so much, and they'll tell us, we don't hate the people, we don't hate the people, we just hate the government. Well, guess what? People would say that about America and then talk about wanting to kill Americans still. And so you have to realize that there is this movement in Russia that is happening, that is organic, that is moving up into the government and disseminating there. And I want you guys to be excited about that. So this is really cool because, you know what I like? I like it when people look at a problem and say, what could the possible solution be? We have this problem with the white South Africans being murdered and robbed, and we have Russians wanting farmers to come and farm their land because they have a lot of land in Russia. And the discussion may be, how did they get it? Okay.
I just had this song on my heart to play. Our God is an awesome God. So we're gonna wrap up our episode. Our UK and Euro news here. Don't forget to like,
comment, and subscribe to both of our channels, Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications, because a lot of you are only here on Sunday because you know that we go live every Sunday at 1 p.m. And not because you're getting notifications. So make sure that you go to our channel where it says subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed, and with the little bell next to it, click on that so that you get notifications when we go live or put up another video.
Yes. And thank you for being here.
It sounds like Spirit, we love you.
It's our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. When he rolls up his sleeves, he ain't just putting on the Ritz. Our God is an awesome God. There is thunder in his footsteps and lightning in his fist. Our God is an awesome God. And the Lord wasn't joking when he kicked him out of Eden. It wasn't for no reason that he shed his blood. His return is very close, and so you better be believing that our God is an awesome God.
Actually, go back up.
Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. When the sky was starless in the void of the night, our God is an awesome God. He spoke into the darkness and created the light. Our God is an awesome God. Judgment and wrath he poured out on Sodom. Mercy and grace he gave us at the cross. I hope that we have not too quickly forgotten that our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. We rose up the slaves, he ain't just putting on the Ritz. Our God is an awesome God. There is thunder in his footsteps and lightning in his fist. Our God is an awesome God. And the Lord wasn't joking when he kicked him out of Eden. It wasn't for no reason that he shed his blood. His return is very close, and so you better be believing that our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. When the sky was starless in the void of the night, our God is an awesome God. He spoke into the darkness and created the light. Our God is an awesome God. Judgment and wrath he poured out on Sodom. Mercy and grace he gave us at the cross. I hope that we have not too quickly forgotten that our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God.
All right, fantastic. I hope that you guys have enjoyed our Sunday show today. We sure
did.
Bet you're darn tootin' enjoyed it as
we're
well.
We're trying to wear our new jewelry here from our little Canadian friends.
From Canada. So yeah, the last video that we did on Friday, I said I was going to put that in the description. I need to get with our dear giver here and find out, her daughter makes these, and I want to find out if there's a way that I can get that information to you guys so that you guys can support what she's doing.
Oh, one more thing.
We have Horatio's mail call to do. Here, let me put the camera back in the center. I forgot. You guys didn't even remind me.
Oh my gosh, that means Horatio had to make it through the song? If he's still here?
I doubt he stayed through the song.
Oh, Horatio.
Here, I've got it right here. I've got it right here.
I think it's Sydney.
All right, so, let me put the microphone back here, get everything back the way that it was. So this was a surprise, as all of your stuff is, but I actually talked to Horatio like every day, and he did not tell me that this was coming. Let me get back to the chat. Chopsticks are, I should do this in a British accent. I'm not going to try Yorkshire. I've given up on that. Chopsticks are one of the reasons the Chinese never invented custards. Spike Mulligan. He says, you weren't expecting this, were you? So after reading this, well, my copy, I thought it was something you should have also. It was written in 1997, so lots has happened since. However, knowing what we know now and the state of the lefties' politics since the Donald, I love that, took over, it's very interesting insight with the benefit of hindsight. There's something interesting, some interesting revelations, nothing earth-shattering, but plenty where you'll go, I knew it. I appreciate you'll never have time to read it. However, I think Leah and your mother will get a kick out of it too. Anyway, running out of space. I'm incredibly pleased with myself. Much love, Horatio. Now,
I'm telling you, Michelle's been reading it. She's actually reading it out loud to people when we go places.
Reading the book, and I'm actually enjoying the book.
You've issued her a challenge.
My gosh. He knows that I don't really have time. I've gotten to the point where I'm so busy that I just, I'm just playing the audio Bible all the time. It's kind of a cheat, but seriously. But no, I am taking time to read this. It's absolutely fascinating. But I wanted to open up to one of these, the introduction pages, to give you a little taste. Oh, by the way, what book are we talking about, Michelle?
You didn't even hold it up.
I didn't tell him yet. The Secret Life of Bill Clinton, The Unreported Stories. This is written by a Brit, okay? That came over in 1997. What was happening in 1997?
Waco.
Waco was before that, but... Okay. Clinton was still president, is my point.
Oh, okay.
He was in his second term.
Well, your first chapter is about Waco, right?
The first chapter is about the Oklahoma City bombing.
Why do I keep saying Waco?
Because I told you how excited I am to read about Waco, because I don't know a lot about it. I really don't. And I read you parts about Waco that were in the introduction.
I wish we could just edit things.
We can't edit. They love you anyway. But anyway, Bill Clinton was president, okay? And so the fact that this book was written then, there's a lot that we can glean from the fact that there are things here that weren't as, shocking. And you're like, wait a minute, so-and-so. So, Bill Clinton was dismissed William Sessions as the head of the FBI. Who was William Sessions? Jeff Sessions' dad. You would not have put two and two together. It would not have been like a thing reading this in 1997. Let me see which one I wanted to get to. All right, so I'm just going to read a page of this so you guys can get a little bit into this. Let me start over here. Something about Bill Clinton. His ineffable caddishness, perhaps, is changing the political discourse of the country. Every year that he continues in power, he eats a little deeper into the eroded legitimacy of the political order. The importance of this cannot be exaggerated. 3/4 of the American people now tell pollsters that they do not trust the government to do the right thing. This is 1997. If ever there was a time when a leader of stoic virtue was needed to restore the authority of the national institutions, it is surely now. It is under this president that domestic terrorism has become a feature of daily life in America. For decades, the country was largely free of the political violence that has affected much of Western Europe. Indeed, Europeans look across the Atlantic with envy, marveling at the way this huge, bustling nation managed to order its affairs with such cohesive goodwill. Not any longer. The actions and character of President Clinton have engendered the most deadly terrorist movement in the industrialized world. I choose the word movement advisedly because I do not accept the Justice Department claim that Terry Nichols or Timothy McVeigh were acting alone when they killed 168 people in the Oklahoma Federal Building in April in 1995. There has been a steady campaign of bombing since then. 3 in Atlanta alone, including the deadly pipe bomb that eclipsed the 1996 Olympics. The attacks are so ubiquitous that they do not make the national news unless somebody is killed. To a foreign eye, America looks like a country that is flying out of control. Again, it is under Clinton that an armed militia movement involving tens of thousands of people has mushroomed out of the plain, an expression of dissent that is unparalleled since the Southern gun clubs before the Civil War. People do not spend their weekends with an SKS rifle drilling the guerrilla warfare guerrilla warfare against federal forces in a country that is at ease with itself. It takes very bad behavior to provoke the first simmerings of armed insurgency, and the militias are unmistakably Clinton's offspring. Would they have happened if America were governed by President Tsongas or a President Bush? Of course not.
Oh, we do know under Bush.
Which compels the question, what is it about the combustible chemistry of Bill Clinton that causes such a reaction? What has he been doing in America? The original sin, I believe, was the FBI assault on the Branch Davidian community in Waco, Texas on April 19th, 1993. At least 76 people were incinerated, most of them women and children, after FBI tanks went smashing through the walls of Mount Carmel. The death toll adds up to the worst tragedy participated by government action on American soil this century.
Hey, I'm going to save these women and children by killing them. You know what? We're just going to send you straight to hell. That's what we're going to do. One-way ticket. We're not going to save you. Dude, we have like the strongest government in the entire world. We're supposed to be able to go in and covertly grab people in foreign countries, but you can't go get women and children out of a stupid compound in the United States.
Okay, so it goes on to say you'd have to go back to Wounded Knee of 1890 to find an abuse of power on that scale. But then it said some methods never change. Infants too young to use masks were subjected to 6 hours exposure to CS gas, a weapon banned in warfare under the Paris Convention on Chemical Weapons.
I'm so sorry you're being abused, little children. Let me just incinerate you and gas you.
The Justice Department plan, in effect, was to torture the children to force the surrender of the parents. There is expert opinion that some of the babies would have died from the gas alone without the fire. So I bristled when Attorney General Janet Reno testified to Congress that the raid would have been a success if the FBI had increased the dosage of chemical poison. This is a fascinating book, and that's just on Waco alone. I mean, it goes to cover so many different topics, and that was just the introduction. So thank you, Horatio, for sending that book. I am reading it. I am making a point to read it. So there.
But you made a really good point about this. It brought a lot to light. What's happening today is under Clinton, the FBI was literally created to be this politicized thug.
Bill Clinton went through and he revamped the entire FBI. He appointed people. He got rid of justices outside of the FBI. He did so much that we are now seeing. Why was it that the FBI and James Comey and Loretta Lynch were all pro-Clinton and kind of, because Bill Clinton created this FBI.
Whole atmosphere.
He created it. It happened, and this guy, Ambrose Evans Pritchard, discovered it in 1997. Okay, in him coming over and interviewing so many people.
Facebook or anything before we,
let me go to Facebook. Waco was the Janet Reno FBI unraveling. Exactly. Darlene liked, yes, our God is an awesome God. I'm going to Facebook comments right now. Al Park says Russians are resilient, but to give them compliments is tantamount to treason, apparently. True. It is treasonous. If you give a Russian a compliment, then oh my gosh,
it wasn't like a couple of years ago.
No, it was
just
not.
Like normal conversation.
So you guys ask me all the time, what books are you guys reading? Usually when we get books, it's from you guys, and it's one of these, like, we're getting as much information out of it as we can, but we don't have time to read the whole thing kind of thing. But something that I'm going to actually sink my teeth into, I'm going to read this one, and I would probably give you guys little clips as we go along. I wanted to sit down and just literally read it out loud for you, just do like Michelle segments of reading time with Michelle. Wonder if Waco was really a pedophile ring. It totally could have been. That's not the point.
It really was.
That isn't the point. The point is that the government went in and there's a lot more to it.
If somebody's being molested, you don't just kill them.
Exactly. Donna Terry says Waco was a show of force by the government to put us in our place. Well said. All right, so thank you, Donna Terry, Kelly, Britt Baza, Gary, Maia, Worth a Look, Stacy. If I'm missing somebody, forgive me. I don't know. Somebody was asking where Sean and Tracy were today. I have no idea. But thank you guys for being here. Like, comment, subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. If you want to send us letters that we read out loud on air like we did the other day from that American in Europe, in Britain, that was really, really enjoyable. You can send them to P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150. If you have something kind of like that and you just absolutely can't send a letter, shoot me an email, massfaith33@gmail.com.
I'll try to get to it.
And we will try to get to it. I have my emails get stacked up. That's why I want you to like send a letter because then I really pay more attention to it.
Every once in a while, you should read some more.
I should. All right. Michelle, the Clintons funded and still do the IRA. No surprise there, says Barry. All right. We will see you guys back at least Friday at 6 p.m.
Hopefully
and then
before
Sunday.
then.
Yeah. We've been kind of busy. Grandma Marilyn's doing better. We're going to help a friend of ours take some chickens on Tuesday. That's going to be like a 5-hour block there. So it won't be Tuesday. I can almost guarantee that. So we won't be going live on Tuesday. Could be Wednesday or Thursday, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. All right. God bless, guys.
Have a great week.
Have a wonderful week. Can I say wonderful? I just trumped your great. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was cold all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid. But you called my name. My eyes.
You know the mic's